Okay, guys, let's talk about the sprint retrospective, okay? This is something we got to do again. Remember this week, although we're going to be working with React and also delving into new concepts, we still need to talk about the concept of becoming a developer, a team player, because no developer works on projects by themselves. So just know that in our retrospectives, we always talk about the stories. Did we do all the things we thought we could do? You know? Who did what well? These are questions that are going to be asked of you in the future. And we need to do a really good job in the future if we want to impress people, right? We need to try to do different things. We need to make different people happy. We got to build different user stories. That's pretty much the end goal of every single position on the tech team. Is to get the user stories done and to make as much cool stuff as we can. I hope you guys think about yourselves. I hope you guys can think up to yourself about like what you guys think you did well, what you didn't do well, so that you guys can know what to focus on. No one can really answer that except for yourself. You can skip these slides. Okay, just know that although we're going to be mainly working with React this week, we're pretty much like, we're not going to talk about too many other concepts with React, because although there are many other concepts in React, like we can only introduce you because there's so many other different things that we need to do. For the rest of the week, guys, this is what we're going to be doing, okay? Today, we're going to be working with React Router, which is how we can show different parts of the application depending on the route. Okay? Does everyone here know what a route is? Right? Everyone here knows what a route is, right? A route is the URL. Just think of it that way. Everything after the .com or the .net is called the route. Sometimes you might hear it called path. Some people might call it URL. Some people might call it the resource. It's everything we have highlighted after the .com or the .ai or .whatever. That is the route. Tuesday, we're going to be working on unit testing. Okay? You guys can think of unit testing as writing code that simply tests our code. It says, hey, I expect this code to do this. Does it do that? All companies should be writing tests, because to manually test things is too time consuming. It would take forever. Any big company, and the best companies in the world, are writing tests for their software. How long would it take to test Google Drive or Google Documents? Not Google Documents, Microsoft Docs. How long would it take to test every single feature of Keynote or of what's the PowerPoint? You know, when we look at these buttons right here, how many buttons are there? Right? And we have to test each one of these features every single time we update. It's impossible. That's what testing is for, guys. Wednesday, we're going to be looking at Redux, which is basically a way of sharing data and having our data centralized in one place for everyone. You guys notice that over this project right here, we had a lot of data passing between components. We had to pass props a lot. Hey, on select repo, do this. And we had to pass it from the app component to the child. And then sometimes the children component would need to talk to other children components. This is not ideal. This is very difficult to do long term, and there's a better way. On Thursday, we're going to be looking at organizing our portfolio. We're going to be making sure this is beautiful. And on Friday, we're going to be having interview prep. We're going to have some people come in from some companies, and they're going to ask you guys about the work that you've done so far. Okay? How would I implement this? How would I do that? Right? And we're going to talk about stuff like that. We're going to have some different software developers from some different companies. A big takeaway, guys, is that we're halfway through the class, okay? Who here's done? Anyone here done with class? You guys learned enough? Yes, it's never over. There's always more to know. As a life piece of advice I give you guys for being a software developer, like a lot of the expectation is that you guys do a lot of research on your own, you know? And I hope you guys enjoy that. Who here likes doing that? I heard Phil say that. Does anyone here like doing research on their own? Right? It's kind of funner, right? I personally like doing jobs like that where I research on my own because that gives me a lot of freedom. You know? I can work from home if I wanted. Whereas like when I used to work in a restaurant, I had to be at that restaurant at 5 o'clock every single day. I had to have my face there. I hated that. So just know that like, you know, in the near future, once you guys get your jobs, ideally speaking, when you start doing it well, you guys have a lot more freedom. And I hope that happens for you guys. And a part of that is the ability to do self-research. So even though we're halfway through the class, guys, in the future, you guys are going to need to research a lot of different things on your own. And we're like, you know, CoderSchool is always going to be here to support you, but you guys gotta do some research yourselves. Over the last week, we've learned a lot of things specifically, but these are probably some of the most important things. We learned how to write code, right? How do we learn how to write code? What are some things we learned in writing code, guys? So we learned how JavaScript used to do this, used to update elements, the old school way before React was a framework, and a jQuery. We could do document.get element by ID, etc. That's one way. What's another thing with coding we learned, guys? Oh. Yeah, we learned ES6 syntax because we're almost always working with objects. On our applications, JavaScript developers said, hey man, there's got to be a fucking easier way to do this, you know? So they said, hey, let's come up with a new syntax for getting all the keys off of an object. And once again, you guys, like I said, we've been working with very simple objects, and they will get more complicated. Obviously, debugging, guys, right? What's something I like doing debugging before there is even a bug? Yeah.
Or just like, well, even before that, you say, you know exactly what you want out of the function.
Exactly. Partially. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, for example, something I always do, right, is whenever I add a button to the screen, guys, I put a function in there, and before I write what the function does, I need to make sure that the function fires, right? So debugging is not having a bug and fixing it, right? Before I write any code, I would write the function and then put a console log in there and say, hey, let's make sure this motherfucker fires, okay? So this is an important skill. All these little steps, make sure we know what we're doing, right? Debugging is just helping us understand like what we expect to have happen. And there's many different ways to do this. You guys, over your professional careers, will get used to your own ways of doing things, but just know that there are many different ways of doing it. And you know, like I encourage you guys to like read articles about different people. Like Charles linked to one recently, right? Did anyone look at that link that Charles shared? Anyone? I get it. But just know that you guys, that's life. You know, like no one has that much time, right? And this is our work, so we need to invest our own time. The one thing where he says like he never console logs. That one right there. Yeah.
It's the one that he said don't read, right? He said something about like the one that me and
the Lord will never read.
Yeah.
So that's yeah.
I watched a video that with debug, right?
Exactly. VS Code has some amazing tools for us. Just put it that way. But we want you guys to use that one because we're gonna do that one a lot. All of them were like, they're all useful, right? It's always good to know different ways of doing things, right? Teamwork, obviously. Git. How many different things did we learn about Git, man? A shit ton. We got a branch, we got a pull, right? We got a push, we got a commit, we got to add, we got to force, we got to force. Sometimes we got to fast forward, sometimes we got to force. And almost an infinite number of things with Git. And like we haven't even done that complicated of a Git flow yet. Just know it that way. Just think of it that way. Okay, we've also learned how to learn, right? Learning isn't about knowing what every single character does. I was talking about this earlier, right? It's just about knowing where to go get what you need, right? Does that make sense, guys? We don't need to know what every single line of code means. We just need to know where to find it, right? So, for example, when you guys go home, right? Does anyone know who here lives in a ham? Does anyone here live in a ham? right? Okay, so Phil, when you turn into your ham, right? Do you know exactly how many houses your house is down? Is yours just the first?
Well, like, you go down and then you make a left, and it's the first one, you know, after that turn.
But exactly how many houses do you pass by?
Yes, the one right in front of me.
Do you know how many feet there are between when you turn to the ham to your ham?
No.
Yeah. So the reality is that Phil doesn't exactly know where his house is. He just kind of knows. He's like, all right, it's gonna go down that way, and I'll run into a wall, and then I make a left, right? And that's how coding is a lot of times, guys. We don't need to know exactly every single line of code. No, we just gotta know, like, I think if I copy and paste it in this one place and I type in a hard code, I think it should look like this. Yeah? And that will help us become better developers. Same thing, we don't need to have every single piece of data to work effectively in our companies, right? And I like I said, you guys have heard me say this before, I think it's a very good thing to look at other people's code. One of the best things you guys can do, I think one day when you guys start running into advanced problems, like with your projects, right, and you start looking at Stack Overflow, you guys are going to, more often, I know you guys already do look at that, but you look at it more often, I think the best questions that you guys are going to see are the ones where people write code. They say, here's my code, this is what I think it should do, okay? So it's okay to look at other people's code. Lastly, it's not giving up, guys. Yesterday, I shared some things with the people that were here, okay? Life is short. You know, life is short, life is hard. Life is hard. And I'm not saying that no one here, like you guys don't understand how difficult your life is, but what I can say is I don't think that many people have a particularly easy life. Everyone has a difficult life some way. Right now, our life is difficult because we gotta learn a lot. But our lives can be difficult in so many other ways. So I encourage you guys to keep trying, keep working at it. We're halfway through. It's hard, and it's going to continue to be hard. But one day, you guys are going to have some opportunities, okay? You guys are going to have an opportunity to work wherever you guys want. You know, you guys are going to have an opportunity to live where you want to live and just work at any type of company you guys want. So that's what to me, that's what not giving up is. I want to have that type of freedom for my loved ones, my friends, and my family. Okay? Oops. So, there's a lot of things to learn with React, guys. Guys, we haven't talked about everything in CoderSchool. That's the truth. We've given you the most important concepts, we believe. I actually think so. I think in what we've talked about so far, if you guys understand it really well, you guys can build a lot of stuff. All this stuff right here is just extra. These are different concepts right here in React. And really, yeah, there's concepts in React that have a very specific use case. Okay? Quad, kind of like the code thingy that you did, right? That you fixed that I couldn't fix. How many different websites need to show code on them? Obviously, they're kind of a lot, right? They're kind of a lot, right? Huh? What's the first result? I fucked up, man.
It depends on how you Google it.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I Googled it wrong. I don't know.
I just want to know how to embed code the containers.
Yeah. So yeah, so let me guys show you guys mine. Okay? So you guys see right here, like right here, when we go to this go work? Oops, I'm showing you guys today's lab. Okay, I fucked that one up. Is it working? I'm confused now. Authentication screen. Come on. Okay, now I'm super confused. Okay, npm start. I really want to work on this lab too, man. You guys are lucky. I wish I could fucking work on this lab. I had to prepare for class this week, so I didn't get to spend as much time as I wanted. But here's my lab. Why does it keep fucking redirecting? Oh, it's because this right here. That's right. Okay, come on, baby. Oh, come on. Localhost 3000. Okay, hold on a second, npm start. Port 3000. So you guys can see whenever I load this GitHub issues page, I thought it'd be fun to just have something go ahead and load. I like that pattern. Secondly, I did authentication. So when a user signs in, they're automatically redirected, or when they go to the website, they're automatically directed to our to GitHub. So if we open up an incognito window, we go to localhost 3000, it's gonna kick us over to GitHub, okay? So we can do something like our username, we sign in, and then we get kicked back to our website. Oh fuck, I don't have my, whatever. Just pretend I came back over here, okay? So after that, after we get the current user, we make an additional API request. If you guys ask questions, if you guys wanna know, we make an additional API request to get all of the current users' repos. Lastly, we had one more component here, not one more component, one more tab here that we could click. And when we click on this tab, we want to render all the current users' GIS. So we click it, and then we can see that this does in fact work. But the fact is that I couldn't figure out how to do this one correctly. So I did find an example online, and it used the library that I was expecting to use, and we got the code highlighted here. But inside of this screen right here, long story short, we have a gist object. Okay, here's a gist object. Inside of this gist object, there's a key called content, and this has a string. It just has a bunch of code. Just put it this way, it's a bunch of code, okay? But in order to have this done dynamically, it does not work. I'm not really sure how to do it right now. So what did I do? I want you guys to know this with your future professional development careers, okay? Because I was blocked on this, I said, you know what, man, I can't fucking figure out how to do this right now, okay? I just commented out that one spot of where the code is. Everything else is dynamic. The title is dynamic, the created at date is dynamic, the link to GitHub is dynamic. So one of them is this just find girls. The second one is people extra credit assignment. The only thing that is not dynamic is the code inside of here. And this code is generated how? Using the exact library that I want to use, the syntax highlighter library. But anyway, this one is having a problem, right? If I stick in a string of code like this, it works. But if I have a dynamic string, it fails. So the main objective, what I'm trying to say here, guys, is in the future, whenever you guys work on projects, it's okay to hard code sometimes. If you're trying to convince your boss that this is okay, or that you've made progress, or you need additional time, it's okay to show them something that doesn't work perfectly. And say, hey, I pretty much got it right. Here's pretty much what the gist page looks like, right? It looks kind of like this, okay? Okay, so once again, there's a bunch of other concepts in React, but these are very specific. We don't need to know them all. It just depends on which company we're working at. Now we're going to talk about React Router. React Router is a way to make our page show different things depending on the route. Make our application show different things depending on the route. It's going to be using something called a higher order component. They sound really scary, but they're not actually that complicated. It's just a component that goes around other components. It wraps it, it holds it, and it says, hey, I'm going to give you some extra stuff. Hold on to this stuff, or you might need this stuff. You guys may run into a bunch of higher order components in the future, and as a matter of fact, you will, specifically on when we use Redux. Just know that it's just a way of adding additional functionality to our components. That's what a higher order component is. A few moments, we'll be looking at one. So, in terms of React Router, what does it do exactly? React Router helps us manipulate the URL of our application so we can do different things. So for example, if we go to github.com, we see this one page, right? GitHub only bought one website on the internet. They only paid, I don't know how much they paid, but they only bought one website. They didn't buy GitHub1.com. They didn't buy GitHub2.com. They just bought GitHub.com. And the reason why it's important to understand routing is that GitHub only paid for exactly one website. Well, really, they paid for more, but they paid for GitHub, right? And by knowing routing, they could figure out how to show us a shit ton of different content. So they made their website really interesting, and they made their a website really fun to use, and have a lot of functionalities that made them sell for $7 billion, right? So this is a very important concept. Every single website in the world works like this. I go to Facebook.com, or I go to Google.com, right? I can see a website. I search something, and you can see that the URL changed. So from one website, Google is able to produce an infinite number of content. That's what the purpose of routing is, okay? And it also helps us out in something that we did a lot. So let me show you an example of how we can do this in JavaScript. Right here. So let's look at our route right here. You guys see this? Questions, an ID, and an ending thingy. So if we type in this command right here, history.pushState, and then we type in a new URL, we can make our page go to different places. So we'll say /hello-world. And notice up here the URL. So obviously we can write code to change it, but when we change it, what do we want to have happen? Exactly. The content should change, because depending on the URL, the content will be different. One of the big takeaways of having URLs is also so that we can save the state of our application. So right now, I just changed this, right? If we refresh, we notice that we went somewhere different. So we want to be able to update the content of our URL, so that users can share a certain website with a different user, and not say, hey, go to facebook.com, then find a button, click that button. We want our users to just be able to copy what's in the URL, paste it. So we're gonna need to do this a lot in the future, guys. Does that make sense, everyone? Does that make sense, everyone? Okay, so, all right. So React Router is just a library for React to manage URLs. There are many other ones, okay? There are many other ones. This one is the most popular. Charles is not the only person that told me this is the most popular. I've also read a couple articles. I Googled it. So we'll use this one. Some important things to know is it isn't run by Facebook. Some people really like, some developers somewhere in the world, they really like React. And they wanted to solve this problem, so they made a project and they helped us solve the problem of managing URLs. Now there are a bunch of people that contribute to this one as well. So we can see our React Router documentation. Let's look at the GitHub. Let's look at, it's got fucking, damn, yo. 8,000 people have forked it, and 600 people have actually made commits to this project. They have submitted code to make this project better, as recently as 5 days ago. So no, like, this is actually something else I was thinking about this weekend. When we tell you guys that documentation, like, you guys gotta understand that our assignments may not be perfect, the API documentation may be bad. The reason why this is not because that we don't want to give you guys the best documentation and assignments in the world. It's just the fact that, like, technology is always changing. You could give me a team of 20 different people, right? 20 different people better than me and Charles, and tell them to sit down together and spend a year writing a book about React. And then 1 year later, guess what? That book is not useless, but it's now out of date. Because every single day, people are trying to update tools, right? There's 600 people over the internet, all over the world, trying to make this better. Nice. You know, it's amazing, right? And they're actively doing this. This is crazy to think about. So no book will ever be up to date. Just put it that way. No, like, almost. I don't know. I don't want to say no, but like pretty much. I can't. You guys could buy a book. You can pay money for a book, and the book might be out of date. I've done that. Okay, I've actually bought a programming textbook before. Have any of you guys done that? Exactly. Yeah. So just know that, like, people, you can pay money for it and it can still be out of date. So just know that sometimes we need to understand that that's going to happen. Okay, so that's the slide. Let's go ahead and look at what we're gonna build today. We get to the fun part. Okay, so npm start. We'll do that. What's going on here, guys? Localhost 3000. Watch. I need to read these instructions. What are we doing today, guys? We're building a npm start. Okay. Okay, we need to do this one right here. My bad, I fucked up. Okay, JSON watchdb.server. So what does this look like, guys? It's like a website, right? A web application. It's not that interesting.
That looks good.
I know.
Is that lavender?
Yeah, we're gonna do something kind of like this. What I want you guys to think about what's any website that you guys have ever gone to. Okay, they're gonna have some content, and then they're gonna have some other content somewhere else, and they're gonna hide that content until a user does something, right? So right now we have our home page. It's gonna show like anything. Doesn't matter any website's homepage, right? It could be Facebook posts. It could be search results. It could be anything. But somewhere else, they're probably gonna have a link. And when you click that link, you see something else, right? That's the fundamental way that all websites work. And in this specific website, because we're all gonna be searching for jobs soon, we're gonna make a candidates website, a job site. And we're gonna list candidates, we're gonna list their company, we're gonna allow people to remove them if they're not good. You know, if they're not good, a good person or something. Right? So this is what I want you guys to do. And also, I want us to be able to build the features that allow us to update the candidate. So right now, I have a user, Loy, who's looking for a job. Imagine if we wanted to have a user, Phil, who wanted a job. Okay, we can say this. His university is CoderSchool University. Look, pay attention to this right here. It's a patch request. Pay attention to the URL. Candidates 6. And we send. Oops, it looks like we got a 404 not found. Okay, so I messed something up. Where's my console? Candidate. Okay, so we do. One second, let me fix something. My bad.
Is this recording?
Yes. Yes, it's recording. Why is it not working? Week 6, day 1. We're recording now? Okay, we're recording. Candidate 6. So we have a candidate, Rolf. We want to update this guy, okay? How are we going to do that? We're going to make an API request. But before we write a bunch of code, let's just make sure our API works. Oh, I know what it is. I used the wrong port. Okay. So, to make a long story short, we followed our REST API, okay? A REST API. We can go to a certain route and find the ID of this resource looking at the route, okay? And depending on which restful verb that we use, get, post, put, patch, delete, our application will behave differently. In this one case, the demonstration, right, is that Phil is looking for a job as well. So we want to update Phil. Well, first off, we want to make sure that Phil is on the page. So we're gonna go ahead and test. 400 bad requests. No. God damn it, guys. I literally just did this. Localhost 3001. JSON at position 364. I did something wrong. I did something wrong. Oh, why didn't you guys help me, man? Come on. Fuck, I forgot a fucking quote, man. Come on, guys. Fuck. Okay, so we can see that right here, Postman gave us back a 200. What is that, guys? It's a good thing, right? I wish I had a $200 bill. And we can see we got Phil right here. Nice. Let's update Phil's, Phil, what's your GitHub? Okay, let's go and jack some stuff about Phil. I'm gonna copy this here image URL. So I'm gonna fix this right here. Okay, that doesn't look right. We'll save it. No, we're not gonna save it. We're gonna send it. And I expect this photo to be updated. Bam. So guys, you guys gotta get really good with Postman. Okay, I want you guys to, when you guys read APIs, documentations, go ahead and use Postman. Don't even think about writing code yet. Make sure the API works. Okay? I don't know how to say that. I really want you guys to do that. And then not only when you guys have evidence that it works for yourself, one day whenever there's a bug in the application, you can walk up to your backend developer and say, look, man, this motherfucker doesn't work. Here's Postman. You can't argue with that. Okay? That's one thing. Second thing, it helps you guys understand what you guys need to do. Okay? So right now we're building a page where users can be removed. Let's say that Phil finds a job. We also want to remove them. Okay? So there's always going to be this cycle of like updating data, fetching data, putting data, deleting data. Remember, guys, our applications the data is like electricity. It's moving in and out, and it's changing, and all this stuff as it goes through different function calls, through different components. Our data is just bouncing back and forth. You guys ever see those stupid ass videos where they show lights bouncing back and forth and they say that's the internet? Let me turn that. Like this? That's all it is. That's kind of how it is. And that's really what our application is doing in terms of data. It's just passing data back and forth. And you can think of all these different places on the world as different components. Maybe different APIs.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. Like, what it's like using a certain signal, right? Like, because obviously these are invisible lines in real life. Like, I don't know. I got to look into that. Like, how do they send signals like GPS to get in real time, or API, or like all these Wi-Fi? You know, like how do they send these signals?
Actually, so I used to work at a telecommunications company before Versailles Rare. The company quite literally laid cables underneath the ocean. That's what they did. So like if Vittel paid this company money to do a project, put it that way, to get more internet from Singapore. Basically, Singapore is a huge hub for internet connectivity, and Vittel was like, man, we got a lot of people that want internet here. I want a really high-speed cable from Singapore to Vietnam to get them this internet. So that being said, the company, Brewhouse, this is obviously before I got there. They were just telling me about the projects they had worked on in the past. They quite literally fucking got a team together and laid a cable underneath the ocean. And inside this cable was a bunch of fiber optic cables, and that was sending signals back and forth. And essentially, you guys can think about this in terms of our applications. That's data. Okay, we don't need to know how networking works. Okay, but that's an entirely different field, guys. Networking, it's like doctors and pharmacists. Okay, they're both kind of in charge of making sure someone's feeling well, right? But a doctor is a lot different than a pharmacist, okay? Just like a network engineer is a lot different than a web developer or a mobile app developer. They're a lot different. There are many different types of engineers in the world, just like there are many different types of programmers. So anyway, that's a little bit off topic. Let's go ahead. Oh man, I'm super going slow right now. Let's go ahead and get to lab, okay? So in the lab, you guys will have further instructions. If anything is unclear, you guys ask me. But we're gonna build something very simple like this, okay? We're gonna have a home page. We're gonna have a candidates page. Candidates are gonna show something, okay? And we're gonna do a bunch of different things. So let me go ahead and turn off this project so I don't confuse myself. So we're inside of here. We're inside of our project. So we're gonna need a couple different packages. I hope I installed them. We have React Router DOM. You guys can obviously read the documentation to run npm something. npm install React Router DOM. Okay. We also need to install something called node server or JSON server npm. I didn't do this one. What is this going to do? This is just going to fake. This is going to fake a production server for us, okay? We're gonna run this. Lastly, I want you guys to copy this command. I went ahead and put some data together for you guys. Copy this command. We're gonna type it into your command, your terminal. What's it gonna do? It's gonna go to the internet and get a file for us, specifically a candidates file. So we can see right here we have a candidates.json right here. When we ran that command, we just got that file. So let's go ahead and rename it to db.json. Oops, move candidates.json to db.json. Okay, so now we can go ahead and open up our code editor. And let's look at db.json. Long story short, this tool that we're going to use needs an object, okay? So we go into this file db.json. We create an object, okay? And now we name the resource that we're going to be working with. This is how this little tool understands what we're working with. For the purpose of our application, we're working with candidates. And we're going to give it the data. What is candidates, guys? It's just an array of people. That's all it is, okay? It's like, this isn't formatted very well. It's very difficult to understand, but I don't expect you guys to look at this file and understand it, okay? I expect you guys to open up your code editor, or not your code editor, but your console, and think of it that way. Okay, so now that we're in app.js, let's go ahead and delete everything. Not everything, just the div. Okay, we'll say hello world. Just make sure everything works. Do npm start. Okay, so we have a hello world. Remember, guys, the objective here is to have content rendered depending on what the URL is. So let's go ahead and create a couple of small functions or components, okay? So we'll call this home page, and this won't take anything, and it will return a div, and the div is, let's just say its style is, let's just do this the way that Charles likes doing this. Class name, okay, CSS. Okay, so what's this class name going to be? We're going to say box page. Okay, we're going to say page is page height 1000 pixels width 1000 pixels. Okay, background color blue. So we have page as a class. We're going to pass this class right here. Does that work? Okay, so now we need to render this component, guys. We're rendering a component. So inside of our app, we're gonna render this component. Let's check to make sure everything works. Okay, that didn't work. I think we need to save this file. Okay, that's a little too big. Say 100. 300 px, okay? So now we can see that we have one component, okay? And pay attention to the page, the name of this component. This is gonna be important, guys. If I'm moving fast, guys, please stop me, okay? No? Okay, so I'm gonna do this twice right now just to prove a concept. So we can do one home page, then we'll do one candidate page. Candidate page. And we're gonna say a candidate page will have a candidate class. Candidate class. And we'll give this one. What color do you want our candidate page to be, guys? Can we say pink? We'll just say red, okay? Red. Okay, so now we need to render this page. So we say candidate page. Okay, so now we have two different components on the screen. What is this similar to, guys? What is this kind of similar to? Remember that sometimes we wanted to show repos, sometimes we needed to show issues, right? Like, depending on which one. The modal was one that this group did, right? So sometimes we may not necessarily want to have a modal. We want to just show some different things, right? We want to show the body of the issue. So let me go ahead and do one more thing, guys. Let's go ahead and add a nav component. Okay? Let's say a nav component. This will return a nav. God damn it. And this nav will have an unordered list, and it will have a couple list items. So we'll say home page, home, then we'll say candidates. Okay, this one would be what? What's this component called? Nav bar. Okay? So now we're rendering our nav, and we need to give our nav some styling. We'll say class name, nav, and then we'll say .nav. Width is 100% view width. Background color is no. Background color is tomato. Thank you. Height should be what? 50 pixels? Okay, let's see how this looks. What's the problem here? We save this? Okay, that looks all right. Not really. Let's go ahead and do the flex. Let's say display flex. Okay. Flex direction. I think it should already be in row. Let's say justify content. Center. Come on, baby.
Why is there why React at the top?
Why is React where?
The one at the top. Yeah. Why is like
margin 0 at the top?
Margin.
Oh no, you have to do it for the star. Do this all selector at the top.
I think it's this one right here. I think it's the app has a margin. So we say margin top 0. Does that work?
we had that problem?
The selector.
Is now
Do star like with the body, margin 0.
Star, body.
Oh, no, without the body. I meant like
Star.
without a star.
And then body 0.
Margin.
Star.
Just
Put the star without a body.
Star, no body, right?
Body, that's the all selector.
Okay, so yeah. So margin and then what? 0? Pixels? 0? Okay, good job. Okay, so now we need to do what? Our UL. All right, let's just say any LI element. Let's say lists. No. UL element. Any UL element list style is none. Okay, so that got rid of it. Okay, so one more thing. Our nav, we want to have the flex direction row. Flex direction row. Come on, baby. Let's think about this. Oh, it's in the UL. My bad, UL. Fuck, man. Why is this not working? I know. Okay, I'm just gonna leave this now because we talked way too much earlier about different things, but I want to complete the slide for you. Okay, guys, you can see that right now we're at our home path, right? The end goal is to be able to click a button and then show something different on that page. Okay? So what would we do before? We'd say if, you could say something like, if true, return this. So right now, it can only return 1, right? And if we do false, we're gonna see the candidate page. Oh my bad, I fucked this up. Yeah, thank you. So one of them is home page and one of them is candidate page, okay? Candidate page. So this is true. One of them should be blue, one of them should be red, right? Okay, so this is one way. So remember, inside of line 34, we're not gonna hard code true. We're gonna have some state. We say do this or do that, depending on this. That's the end objective, right? But no, that's not the best way to do it. There's a lot of problems with this way of doing it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use React Router. React import. I forgot to import, so I'm just gonna Google it. React Router. We're gonna look at the example. Guys, I really want you guys to read this very carefully. We're gonna copy all these over here, okay? We're gonna copy all these. We're gonna import them in. We got some components. We don't even know exactly how they work, but that's cool. We can figure that out. The most important one maybe is the one on the outside called a router component. And basically, the router component, let me fix this, my bad. The router component wraps all of our other components in our application. And when it wraps that component, it's going to give us additional functionality. Okay? So do you guys see what's going on here on line 38 through 43? The router component wraps our component, wraps all of our other components. And because of that, it gives us some additional behavior. Okay? So after we wrap our component, our application in the router component, oh yeah, and also note right here, this is some additional syntax. Right here is we're just renaming a component that we have exported. We could have, so this is how we might have exported or imported this, but then we have to use a long component name. We can alias it. It's called aliasing. Okay? So we alias browser router as simply router. Browser router was aliased as router. So now we can use something called a route component from React Router. Because sometimes they're really long, and sometimes actually two imports will have the same component name. Yeah, sometimes you might import from this library, it says button, and then this is a specific type of button that has a spinner inside of it, and then we import a button from a different library. Or sometimes we'll name components the exact same component as another one. So,
separating from two components.
Yeah, say again?
So you don't put that two components in the same size.
Exactly, but what if we use two different libraries that have a component named the same thing? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just depends. So guys, come on, pay attention. I'm sorry. This lab is moving very quickly, okay? So now we also have a router component. This router component, it takes a couple properties. And there's two of them that we're very, very interested in, okay? We're interested in something called path, as well as component. Fuck me, I don't remember if this is component. Hold on, guys, let me look at something. Fuck it, man, let me just look at the example on the internet. Okay, we're looking at the example. We see one of them is called path, the other one is called component. Okay, so let's go ahead and try it. So we can see the path is about, the component. But instead of rendering our about, this one that we copied, we want what? The home page. Okay, so whenever we go to, I did this wrong. Whenever we go to our index page, the home page of our website, facebook.com, google.com, we're gonna show the home component, the home page component. That's what this is. We're simply passing it two different properties. One is a string. It's called the path property. The other one is the component property. What is its argument? What is this argument? What is the value? What is the value of this? It's a component. That's what it expects to have. Okay? So if we save and refresh, we hop back over. Where'd it go? We save. It seems that nothing is broken, guys. Okay? Now let's try to do the same thing for our candidate page. Say again? Okay, my bad. Thank you. Okay, so this seems to have worked. But notice how, because these two paths are exactly the same, they both show, right? They both show at our about page, right? So what if we did a candidate page? Let's do candidates. Candidates. Okay? We show a candidates page. And now we can see that, is it candidates here? Fuck man, I'm really confused. Hold on. Let's do a H1 candidate page. Candidates page. Home. Okay? Does this work? Okay, so guys, you can see that you can see that in our app component we have a higher order component router. This higher order component router wraps a couple of other components, specifically two route components. These two route components take two properties. One of them is a string that represents the path. The other one is the component we want to render at this path. Okay? So if we go to /candidates on our application, we expect to see the candidate page. Right now we're at home. We don't see a candidate page. So what's going to happen when we do /candidates? We do see the candidates page. We do in fact see the candidates page. But the problem is that it trickled through. This is called pass through right here. The path on the home page right here also matches /candidates. Long story short, we need to be exact. This path right here on line 42 does in fact match right here. More specifically, it's called a wildcard match. Anything after it doesn't matter. It's a wildcard match. So we can do something called exact. So now when we go to /exactly, a home page will render. Anything after that, it won't render. It has to be exactly the home page. So refresh, and we do in fact see our candidates page. Nice. Okay, so what do we need to do now, guys? We want to update this so that when we click it, it works, right? So we can use another component provided by React Router called link. So let's go ahead and hook this up. Okay, we got one link. Notice how when we click it, nothing happens. You guys see? Nothing happens. We're on candidates, but we want to go to home. So for our link component, we just need to pass it an argument of where the hell it is we want to go. Okay? So we'll just say /. So we type this in, we click. You guys see that? You guys see that? You guys supposed to see that? So we'll do it one more time, except we want to do it for candidates. Is this going to work, guys?
It's gonna work from home.
Exactly. I did that on purpose. Thank you, Phil, for paying attention. Good job, man. On line 32, we didn't pass it the correct path. Okay? We need to update this. We refresh. Now if we click candidates, what's going to happen? Look at the bottom left right here. Notice how the path changes. That's because of this link tag right here. And it's the relative path. So we click candidates, we'll see candidates. If we click home, we'll see home. Okay? Super complicated application. We did a lot of shit already. Okay? Mind blown, right? Okay, so we figured out how to render without using the nested if. If this dot state that this, or this dot state that just, this dot state that repos show this. We've got a much simpler way of doing this. Okay? So now we need to do, let's go ahead and render some data. So we have a JSON object here, okay? db.json. And let's go ahead and get this in our application. So let's go ahead and do const candidates equal require, where am I looking? db.json. db.json. And what are we looking for inside of db.json, guys? This is an object. When we import db.json, we're going to have one object. And this object is going to have a key. And that key is called candidates. I'm sorry, this is the way we have to set it up for the next step. Okay, the next step. We have to set up this way. It's a bit confusing. So we'll do require db.json.candidates. And just to confirm that this is working, what should we do, guys? Yes. God damn it. Log. So we can see that we fucked up. We already have a problem. We didn't get candidates correctly. Did we save this? Candidates. Candidates. We did this wrong? We already have a problem, guys. Require db.json. Okay, for some reason it works now. That's interesting. I don't know what I did there. I really don't know what happened. I don't know. I spelled something wrong maybe. I don't know. But basically now we have our db of JSON. Let's go ahead and look at one, guys. Let's go ahead and look at one. So I'm going to cheat. I'm just going to do this. We're just gonna look at one specific candidate after we look at all the candidates. So we save, and we can see one of our candidates right here. It has a company, it has a country, it has an email, first name, blah, 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 blah. She, my bad. Yeah, she. So we can see that the candidate, this is just basically how any application is gonna work. We're gonna have a bunch of objects. I don't care what kind of objects they are. They're gonna have objects, they're gonna have keys. Okay, guys? Okay, so now let's do this. Let's say that, hey, in our candidate page, let's show our first candidate's name. Okay, can we do that? So what can we do here, guys? Does this work? So we click candidates. Ooh, so we got Hanny. So what if we had a list of candidates? Can we just do this? Would this work? It works, right? But that's a fucking horrible way of doing this. What about, I'm sorry guys, sometimes I jump too quickly. I have not done it this way at the lab yet, but this is a horrible way of doing it. What should we do, guys? Yes, we need to map. Exactly. No, we're not using a for loop. We're not using a for loop. Okay, so let's go ahead and define a new function. Const render users. Okay? And what's this gonna do, guys? It's gonna take candidates, dot map, candidate. It's gonna return some HTML. Let's do candidate. I'm gonna go ahead and skip some of this, guys. I hope you guys have this memorized by now, okay? Because I don't like writing code like this, so I don't want you guys to say first name. We'll say job title. I already have this memorized because I built this object, but you guys can look at it. Job title, we'll say company, say last name, and then we'll say, I don't have it memorized actually. We'll say country, I think, or yeah, country. Okay, that seems cool. Okay, we're gonna close this to clear ourselves up. And now we're gonna say first name, and then we'll say last name. And before we get ahead of ourselves, let's test this one more time, okay? Oh yeah, okay. So now what we do here, guys? Like I said, we'll do render users right there. All right, now the problem is on line 17 we didn't return, guys. Bam. So now we got a shit ton of users. Okay? But this isn't good enough. We want to have something a little bit smarter than this. So now we'll say, we'll do, I don't know, a UL, I guess. We'll do a LI. What's in this LI, guys? We say job, current job. Current job is job title. Guys, this should be super easy, okay? But let me know if I'm doing too much too quickly. Job title, company, and then we'll say country. Country. Don't make fun of me, man. Save. Okay, so we seem like we have some good data here, guys. Okay? Okay, so now what do we want to do? Let's have one more thing. Let's have a button to remove a user. Wait, I don't want to do that. Let's say remove user. Okay? Refresh. I did something wrong. We'll just go ahead and add a dummy function here just to test. Make sure we can click it, okay? Blah, 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 blah. Okay? Okay, so we got a button here for every single candidate. We click it. We got it firing. What do we want to have done here, guys, instead? We want to remove the user, right? So, I forgot how this is going to work. We want to remove the user. So what we're going to do is write one more function. I do remember how this works. Think about it. We're going to write, oh no, this should be a let. Okay, that's right. Let, okay. We're going to write a remove user function. Const function, remove user. It's going to take candidates. Okay. Then we're going to say, We need to map over all the candidates and find that user. So we need to do remove user, and then we'll pass it the ID. And we didn't get the ID yet. My bad, guys. I fucked up. Okay, so let's make sure that we can actually do that. So console.log, blah, 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 ID. So let's just make sure we can identify, guys. We'll make sure that we can identify which user we're clicking on. So this is the ID. It looks good. Is anyone with me? Who is anyone here lost?
No.
Are you guys with me? Everyone with me?
With me. With you.
V?
Yeah.
I haven't heard any of you guys say anything. Someone tell me something. Okay, so now we've been able to successfully, from our render users, pay attention to a button that has been clicked, pass it the ID of a user that we got off the user object. Okay? Every user object is going to have an ID. Yeah, correct. So now what we need to do is we need to look at all the candidates.
There's an option there. Should we use ID or IDX?
You use ID. You almost always want to use ID. Sometimes we do need to use index, but every single object that you're going to work with is probably going to have an ID. I mean, I don't like speaking absolutes, but you're never ever going to make a user without an ID.
That was like more the old way, the old example, like using JavaScript and everything else. That's why you find it in the IDX.
Yeah. So.
If you don't have an ID, you use IDX.
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't have an ID, then you have to use IDX. But you're 99% of the time you're going to have an ID. Okay. So now we're going to say candidates.filter. Okay. .filter candidate. Man, I can't fucking type today. Candidate. Okay. And we're going to say where the candidate.id is not equal to ID. Okay. We're going to say const new candidates equals. And guys, return. Okay. And console.log length. Okay, so we're just going to filter over all of our candidates and find the ones that do not have the ID of the user that we've just clicked. Does everyone understand what we're doing on line 17 through 19?
Yeah.
Okay, we get passed an ID from the remove user function call, and we compare all our candidates to see which one doesn't have this ID. So I expect on line 21, because when the application loads, we have 500 users. I expect when we click a button, we should have 499. Okay? So we click it. So we do have 499 users now in our candidates variable. And I've purposefully, guys, not yet used any class-based function or class-based components. Okay? Because now we're going to understand why we need sometimes we're going to need a stateful component. Okay? So notice that candidates right here, Hannah, when I click user, even though this fires, right, she doesn't get removed. Right? So now we need to refactor just a little itty bitty bit. So in our candidates page, we're going to make this a class-based component. Class. Extends react.component. Then we'll do our render function, our render method, and we'll return. Okay. And now we have another problem. I did this wrong. Okay. So look at render users. Is it syntax error? Oh, my bad. My bad. Yeah. See, we all make mistakes, guys. I don't know how many components I built in my life. I still fuck up sometimes. Okay, don't hit yourself. Don't kid yourself. Don't feel bad for yourself if you do that. You know, just know that it's a part of the process. Okay, so now we got these components up here. You know, we could leave it up top. That's possible, but let's refactor it because I believe that a render candidates function should belong to our render candidates, our candidate page. That seems to make the most sense to me. So we'll go ahead and copy this over here. We'll delete this. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to stick it inside here, inside of our candidate page component. right? And we'll also add our remove user function to this one, okay? So we haven't done anything magical, guys. We wrote a couple functions. We wrote one component class and a couple of smaller functions, okay? There's no magic so far. So now the one thing we need to do is when this candidate page loads, we want to do a constructor. And what are we going to do here, guys? Yes. And what's the next step that we need to do? Why did we go from a functional component to a class-based component? Because we need our when we click that button to update the state, right? So this dot state equals candidates is equal to candidates, right? Because we define candidates right here, right? So after this is done, let's look at our render function. Okay, so now these throw errors because it's on this now. This is where these functions are defined. Okay. We also need to update candidates right here. This dot state dot candidates. Okay, that looks good. Good. Okay, it doesn't look like everything is broken. We get a warning right here about passing a key to each child. So let's do that as well. Key ID. Yeah, so each time we're passing over our rendering over a user component, this is going to be a user component. Right now, all it says is div, but this is going to be a user component. Okay, guys? We just pass an ID so that React can render it efficiently. So everything looks okay. We click remove users. Remember, the reason why we went to switch to a stateful component is because we want to remove the user. Hannah's still here. This doesn't make sense. Okay? So in our remove users, we're just going to take our new candidates and set state to it. Candidates. New candidates. Okay? I expect this to work now. We save and click user. And you guys can now see that we've been able to remove users from our state. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay, we're gonna do one more thing for the lab. I'm not gonna do the whole thing. We're gonna add a edit user page. Okay? So we're gonna hop over here. We're at line 49 to our render users. We're gonna add a edit user button. Edit user button. Edit user, okay? And what do we need to do here? Edit user button on click. We need to do the function correct. On edit user, okay? And then we're gonna do that function. Oops. Fuck. And it's gonna take an ID. I forgot how to do this. Okay, yeah, my bad, guys. Sorry, I got a little bit ahead of ourselves. Our candidates render users, we click that button. Now we also need to have an additional route. Okay? So this one's gonna be candidates, and we can pass it a :/ID and then edit. Know that right here, the :/ID or /:ID, that is going to be a property we can grab off of our router properties. The higher order component is going to give us some free magic. Think about it this way. On line 96 to 113, okay? Because we wrapped everything inside of a router component, higher order component, now when we pass this path with this ID field right here, we're going to get some magic for free. Okay, guys? So, because of that, right, we can go to candidates / let's just say 1/edit. We hit enter. And I think everything went okay. Did it? Oh yeah, everything did okay, but the thing is we didn't create an additional component. So let's create one more component. And this one specifically for rendering one user. So we'll call this one edit user, edit candidate page. Okay? Edit candidate page, we save. So we now want to have our candidates exactly match because we're rendering too much. We just already showed this. And now, edit candidate page. Okay, so this is our edit candidate page. Here's our home page. Here's our candidates page. We click edit user. Remember, we want to jump over to our edit candidate page. That does not work, right? So what's the function that we want to have when we click that button? Where is that? On edit user, what do you want to do here? Let's make sure this works. So do we have the ID? Did I do that? We have the ID. What? Somehow we need to update the URL and then go to the edit page. Okay? So React router. I don't remember how to do this. Router go to route. We gotta do. Okay, so we gotta look at this.props. Long story short, the data that is passed from this higher order component is inside this.props. So let's just console log this.props whenever a user clicks on edit user. I'm doing this here because that's exactly where we want this behavior to occur. So we can see that this.props, when we click edit user, this.props is an object. It has something called match. And inside of that, it has something called params. Okay? No, we want to look at history. We want to look at history. History.push. History.push. Here it is. This.props.history.push. History.push. And we're going to pass it a string. Guess what we're going to pass it in the string, guys? We're going to pass it the ID. ID as well as edit. Okay? So we're going to add this to the URL from the page that we're clicking. So if we click over here on our candidates page and we click edit user, we fucked up. The URL is not right. So none of the components rendered. So we need to update a little itty bit. Candidates. Right? We refresh. We go to candidates. We see our candidates. If we click edit user, it worked right here. So now let's just do one more itty bitty thing, okay? So, I'm gonna let you guys do that. Do you guys have any questions? You guys have any questions? Okay, so if you want to see props in the component, right? So there's two different ways to define our edit component, edit candidate page, or to pass the component which should be rendered by React Router. This is one way, component, and then the name of the component. That is one way of doing this, okay? The other way is, I forgot how to do this. React Router pass props to component. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, here it is. So instead of having just the name of the component right here, guys, we could also have an actual component with the curly braces, as well as, oh no, what goes inside of here is a function. That's what it is. It's a function, and the only thing that this function does is return us the component that we want to render on this route. Okay? Do you guys see the difference between line 120 and 121, everyone? On line 120, we simply name the function that we want to render at this route. On line 121, we simply have a function which will return the component that we want to render. And when we return this is where we can also pass props. Quas props equals an object is pass is true. Okay? So I think this will work. So now when we go to our edit candidates page, we have props here. Maybe just console.log, blah, 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 blah. Props. Okay? We'll save. Refresh. And we can see that the props right here, quals props, is passed. And where's that coming from? That's coming from line 94. A property was passed to this functional component. What is this functional component? Edit candidate page. Edit candidate page came from where? It came from our route being passed a property called component. And this property, it had a function in it. This function returned a component. That component we pass props to. Very simple, guys. So I'm going to show you, okay, I'm sorry, I know this class is going actually super late. I'm going to show you the basic layout. I forgot to do this, okay? So typically, this depends on what company you guys work at. You might have it called screens, you might have it called pages, okay? Typically, you'll have a folder called pages. And guess what this holds? Holds a bunch of fucking pages, okay? So we'll do add page, home page, homepage.js, okay? Then we'll hop over here. What can we do now, guys? Let's just go ahead and copy out our home page. We'll copy out our home page, okay? Copy out our home page. Do export default. Okay, yep, you're right. Class. Home page. Does that look good?
Change to class instead of regular function.
Fonts. Oh yeah, right. Does that look good?
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing we need to also do is import React. I always forget to do this when I'm creating a new one. This is why I don't want you guys creating a bunch of fucking components immediately. Do it all in one file first, okay? You're gonna make a bunch of little mistakes. I forgot to import, and now we gotta do all these imports. I think everything looks good, right? That looks good. So now what can we do here? We need to delete this homepage component, right? Where'd it go? Interesting. Home. How's this working? How's this working? Okay, there it goes. I was expecting it to fail. Okay, so now you're right, Phil. Phil's getting ahead of us. Thank you, Phil. He also wants to import this. So we'll import from homepage from, I went up too far. Pages, homepage. Okay? We'll save it. Refresh. All right, that seems to have worked. So let's go ahead and do this one more time. Or maybe two more times. I don't know. I forgot how many we had. How do we copy this? You can copy this?
Copy.
What the hell's copy? Okay. So what's the other one that we have? It's candidates page, right? So we'll copy our candidates page. Okay, that looks good. We'll paste all this up here. Okay. Export default candidate page. And we can already see that we're getting complaints. So we can just go ahead and copy our imports up here. And we'll delete these. Candidates is candidates. Is this gonna work? I'm a little scared. So we just go ahead and replace these. Candidate page. I think this will work. Candidate page. Pages. Say again?
I don't know. Do you have to pass any props or to the homepage?
No, it's just a simple one that we did for fun. Oh, we didn't rename the file. Candidate page. Okay. Can't resolve DB. Oh, it's because I need to go up one. All right. So we just extracted out two components from our one main component up here. And obviously we can do the same thing, right? We can do the same thing to the other ones, right? So we go to candidates, we see candidates, we can remove users. And also we can edit users. I'm gonna let you guys do this one, okay? This is too easy. We need some inputs, we need a button. We need to work with some state. You pass some data back and forth. Okay, guys? You have any questions? All right, it's lunchtime.